What if Earth suddenly got a second moon? At first, it would look almost beautiful. A second glowing world would appear beside our familiar moon. But this wouldn't just change the night sky, it would change Earth's entire system. The first question would be, where did this moon come from? If it were large enough to stay in orbit, its gravity would immediately begin pulling on Earth. The oceans would feel it first. Tides would become stronger and far more complicated. Some coastlines could see water levels rise dramatically, and the two moons would constantly pull on each other. Their orbits would begin interacting. Scientists would have to calculate whether the system was even stable, because a second moon wouldn't simply sit peacefully beside the first. It would become part of a giant gravitational battle, and Earth would be caught in the middle, but the tides would only be the beginning. With two moons pulling on Earth, ocean tides would become far more complicated. Some coastlines could experience much higher tidal ranges. Ports and coastal cities would have to adapt. Harbors could become dangerous during extreme tides. Entire coastal ecosystems would begin changing. But there would be another problem. The two moons would not always pull in the same direction. Sometimes their gravitational forces would reinforce each other. Other times they would partially cancel out. That means Earth's tides could become unpredictable. Some days could bring unusually calm oceans. Others could bring enormous tidal movements, and coastal regions would have to prepare for both. But the real question would be, what happens to the rest of Earth's climate? And this is where things get much more interesting. Two moons would constantly change the gravitational forces acting on Earth. The oceans would move differently. Ocean currents could change, and that could affect the climate. Some regions could become warmer. Others could become colder. Storm patterns could shift. Coastal ecosystems would have to adapt again. But there is another effect. Two moons would make the night sky dramatically brighter. Some nights could almost feel like daylight. That would affect animals that depend on darkness. Predators would change their hunting patterns. Nocturnal animals could lose their advantage. Even human sleep patterns could be affected by brighter nights. But the biggest question would still remain, how would two moons affect Earth's long-term stability? Because two moons don't just orbit Earth, they also pull on each other. Every orbit would affect the other. If their paths were too close, their gravitational interaction could become dangerous. The moons could slowly change their orbits. One could move farther from Earth, the other could move closer, and if the system became unstable, the consequences could be enormous. A collision between the two moons would release unimaginable energy. But scientists would have another problem. Earth's own orbit could be slightly affected. Even small changes over millions of years could completely reshape the planet's future. And then there would be the satellites. Thousands of objects orbiting Earth would suddenly have to survive a completely different gravitational environment. Space around Earth would become much more complicated, but humanity would suddenly have a completely new destination in space. The second moon would become the target of a massive exploration program. Scientists would send probes to map its surface. Then robotic missions would begin landing. If the moon contained water or useful minerals, everything could change. Permanent research stations could appear, then mining bases, and eventually, humans could build the first settlement there. The second moon could become a stepping stone for deeper space exploration, but there would be a problem. Getting there would depend entirely on its orbit. A distant moon could make travel expensive. A closer one could make reaching it much easier. And if its orbit changed, every mission would have to be recalculated. But the second moon could also change something we rarely think about: Earth's rotation. The moon already affects how fast Earth spins. A second moon would add another gravitational influence. Over very long periods, Earth's rotation could change. Days could become slightly longer or shorter. Earth's axial tilt could also be affected. And that means the climate could change again. Even small orbital changes could have enormous consequences over millions of years. Seasons could become different. Some regions could become much colder, others could become warmer, and the two moons would permanently reshape Earth's night sky. If the system remained stable, humanity could enter a completely new era. Earth would have two natural satellites. The night sky would never look the same again. Space missions could use the second moon as a new base. Scientists could study two worlds instead of one. And future generations might grow up thinking that two moons are completely normal. But there is a darker possibility. If the moon slowly drifted into unstable orbits, one could eventually escape Earth's gravitational influence or move dangerously close to the planet. The second moon could even break apart. A cloud of debris could spread through Earth's orbit. Satellites could be destroyed. Space travel could become extremely dangerous. So whether a second moon became humanity's greatest opportunity or a planetary disaster would depend on one thing: gravity. Subscribe for more mind-blowing what-if scenarios, and don't forget to like the video.